The day my father erased my name from our family, everyone thought my life was over. My own sibling smiled while I walked away with nothing but a single envelope. Nobody noticed what my father had forgotten to destroy. Inside that envelope was one secret that would eventually cost him everything he had spent 40 years building. If you enjoy emotional family stories filled with betrayal, justice, and unforgettable karma, subscribe now because this story only gets more shocking from here. My name is Daniel, and for most of my life I believed family meant loyalty. My father owned one of the largest construction companies in our state, and everyone admired him as a respected businessman. Behind closed doors, he treated me like a disappointment while my younger brother received every opportunity, every compliment, and every promise about inheriting the company. I worked longer hours than anyone else, yet every success I achieved somehow became another reason for my father to criticize me. I kept believing that one day he would finally see my value, but I was completely wrong. Everything changed during my father's 60th birthday celebration. Friends, relatives, business partners, and local reporters filled the ballroom expecting an evening of celebration. Instead, my father stood before everyone and announced that I was no longer part of the family or the company. He publicly declared that my brother would inherit the entire business because he believed I lacked loyalty and leadership. My brother accepted the applause while I quietly walked toward the exit carrying only one envelope my late mother had left for me years earlier. Inside was a handwritten note asking me never to forget who I really was. Months passed, and I struggled to rebuild my life from nothing. Bills piled up, while former friends stopped answering my calls because they believed my father's version of the story. One afternoon, I decided to meet the private investigator whose name my mother had secretly written inside that envelope. The investigator listened carefully before opening several old files that had been hidden for years. What he showed me completely changed my understanding of my family. My father's empire had been built through deception, hidden accounts, and illegal partnerships that nobody had ever questioned. The investigation continued for months without anyone noticing. Every document connected another missing piece of the puzzle. Former employees quietly shared financial records they had kept for their own protection. Several retired executives admitted they had witnessed illegal contracts but had remained silent out of fear. As the evidence grew stronger, I realized this was no longer about revenge. It had become a fight to expose the truth. My father had spent decades hiding behind expensive suits and perfect public speeches. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, take 1 second to like this video and share it with someone who believes karma always finds its way. The first public hearing shocked the entire city. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse while television cameras followed every witness entering the building. My father still believed his reputation would protect him, but one document after another destroyed his confidence. Hidden bank transfers, fake invoices, and secret agreements appeared before everyone. My brother tried desperately to defend him, but every answer created even more questions. For the first time in my life, I watched my father lose control of a situation he could not manipulate. The biggest surprise came only days later. My brother's fiancée discovered the investigation had revealed years of lies about the family business and the fortune she believed she would inherit. She packed her belongings and left without saying goodbye. Friends who once competed for invitations to our family parties suddenly disappeared. Investors withdrew millions of dollars, banks suspended important agreements, and longtime business partners refused to answer my father's calls. The empire he had protected by sacrificing me was collapsing faster than anyone imagined. When the court finally reached its decision, the company entered restructuring under independent management. Several executives faced criminal charges while my father lost nearly everything he had spent his lifetime building. Before leaving the courtroom, he quietly asked if I could ever forgive him. I looked at him for a long moment before telling him that forgiveness was possible, but trust could never be rebuilt once a parent chooses pride over family. His silence said more than any apology ever could. Years later, I built my own successful business based on honesty instead of fear. I hired people who had once been ignored and treated them with respect. Every achievement reminded me that true success comes from character rather than inheritance. Losing my family had once felt like the greatest tragedy of my life, but it became the reason I discovered my own strength. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not destroying someone. It is proving they were completely wrong about who you could become. If this story moved you, remember that every choice has consequences and every act of kindness leaves a legacy far greater than wealth. Subscribe for more unforgettable, true, inspired stories where betrayal meets justice and share this video with someone who needs to believe that karma never forgets. Daniel never inherited his father's empire, but he built something far more valuable. His father's business disappeared, while Daniel's integrity became his greatest success. In the end, money created power, but character created a legacy that could never be taken away.